Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You know on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that thing. I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that. Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the core. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, still listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Starts like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs. You know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA. We the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzzer beaters. We coming live all through your speakers. Go.
And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? It's your boy, BC Brandon Combs, coming to you live on another beautiful Sunday morning here in Chicago. Well, Indiana. Same difference. We're at the Fitz compound again. That's what we do. I'm sitting outside lovely Wrigley Field while my guy Fitz is sitting on the south side of the city.
Baseball's coming back. Yeah. Combs, people will come, Ray. I don't know why I always think of Field of Dreams. I once was drunk and I was doing quotes from Rocky IV and Field of Dreams, and I mixed it up. So I was doing the voice of Rocky, doing the lines from Field of Dreams. And there was like 10 people listening to me. I might have been high too at the time, but
was it like, yo, Adrian, if you build it, they will come?
Yeah, it was something like that. Or the scene where I was doing Rocky's voice. When he does the "if you could change, we could change." Or I was doing the voice of "People Will Come," Ray, in Rocky. It was really bad. I never laughed so hard though afterwards at myself. But anyway, baseball's back. So exciting. Definitely my favorite sport. Man,
it's back. We've got preseason games starting next week. We've got the World Baseball Classic coming up. We've got all sorts of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
On the south side, though, it seems like you guys are getting geared up to start seeing a woman beater on the mound week after week. Clevenger being allowed to participate in spring is a lot different than him still being on the team to me, because I found out something that I didn't know today. Well, I actually found it out earlier in the week, but what I didn't know was that when there is an ongoing investigation, you cannot release a player.
Yeah, I wasn't sure of that. Can't they still DFA him though?
No.
Okay.
So when there's an ongoing investigation, you cannot release or DFA a player because it's called preemptive.
It makes sense. That makes sense because they have to do the investigation. The only bad part about this is it's been 7-8 months.
But you don't have to allow him to participate in team workouts. You can put him on the shelf for right now and say, look, for conduct right now detrimental to the team, we believe it'd be better if you are not with her. I mean, you and I both have a wife. We both have kids.
Yeah.
How would you feel if you're on a team and you had a guy like this in your clubhouse?
Yeah, that'd be tough. I mean, it'd be tough on the team too. I don't think they're handling it correctly. I don't know if 25 teams probably in the league have him in spring training though, because that's just how it goes. I mean, he doesn't have you're right. He doesn't have to participate in spring training. They could have told him no. I think there's another element to this, the $12 million element, which is too bad because the team is making money. They're definitely turning a profit. They've had over 2 million people in that stadium every year for a while now. Maybe not the COVID year, obviously not the COVID year, but the last 3 out of 4 seasons. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I don't know how because it's not like Clevenger was on the team last year, right? Like it's not like he was a part of this clubhouse and he got close with the guys and he's got really good friends inside of this clubhouse, right? Like this is a guy who is brand new to the team, brand new to the clubhouse, brand new to the roster. And now you're coming in and you were one of their big free agent signings this offseason. And you're going to come in and you're going to try to mesh with this pitching staff. If I am on this team, this guy is not welcome. He's not welcome in the clubhouse. He's not welcome on the field. He's not welcome anywhere because we know what we've heard. We know what we've seen. We know what we've gotten in regards to what he has shown, what his past is, what you heard Rick Hahn talk this week. You heard Rick Hahn talk about, we don't take past character into account. There's no way for us to have known that this investigation was going on. That's a load of shit. There is no way that a multi-billion-dollar corporation does not know who they are getting in bed with, does not know who they are hiring. We have background checks for low-level blue-collar workers. You're telling me you don't have that in Major League Baseball?
Yeah, you pretty much have to have it. I mean, I just don't know who they could talk to with relatives, stuff like that. They said that there was maturity issues, and that's kind of troubling when the guy's 32. And I think he was referencing Bobby Jenks and Przezinski. Bobby Jenks was 23 years old when they picked him up.
Yeah.
Przezinski, I think, was 27, 28 at the time.
Yeah.
They did help him. They did win a World Series with those two guys.
Good morning, Johnny Torres. Our guy, Johnny Torres, chiming in. Southside Bags. Make sure you check them out. Southside Bags on Facebook. They do sponsor the show. He gets us great interviews week after week. This week's interview kind of fell through a little bit short there, but we're definitely going to get back with it next week. And we've got some really, really good guys coming on. Johnny Torres says, you guys are acting too shy. Are you guys okay? I know you ain't talking. We're gonna let that one slide, John.
Yeah, what is that? I started the show with a drunk story. How is that being shy? You want me to take my shirt off?
And now we're talking about a child abuser and how he's not welcome on a team. Like I don't know how much hotter you want us to go, but I mean we're gonna get there for sure. We're gonna talk about some other stuff.
And to get back to that, I mean, I'm hearing at least some people are saying that they overpaid for him anyway, that they wanted him, that they went and grabbed him, that they were enthusiastically going after him, even though that there was they knew that there was going to be some risk to the pickup.
There's some form here of the same thing that you just went through with Tony La Russa, right? Like, we know we have problems here, but this was our guy who we really wanted to succeed. This is our guy who we went out and got, right? This is our guy who the owner was like, no, I don't care who you want. This is who I'm hiring. Yeah. And you're kind of getting that now from Rick Hahn. Look, this was my guy. This was my guy I went out and got, and I'm not shying away from him. Yeah. You've got to get away from this guy. Not only for your team, but for your fan base. Like, how can... If you go, say you get tickets to go watch the Sox at whatever the name of their park is now, guaranteed rate. I'll always call it Comiskey. You get tickets to go down there with your wife and son, and then you find out that Clevenger is on the mound. Are you still going?
No, probably not. I mean, there was a funny story, like Freddie Garcia, the old pitcher for the Sox. He used to work so slowly. He'd walk around the mound, he'd look around, and somehow every time I went to a game, he'd be pitching. Like, I'd forget who was pitching that day, and it'd be like a 3.5, 4 hour game when it didn't need to be. Like, this is similar.
G-spot field is what they call it now, according to Johnny.
Come on. It looks good though. Looks better than Wrigley, your background. Although it's a beautiful day in Wrigley.
Yeah.
Look at those clouds.
I see we've got a bunch of people watching right now. If you guys are watching on the Facebook, you can find us on YouTube. We are on a different link right now, but if you click on the YouTube link, make sure you click like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube link. It helps us out tremendously. We can change the name of the YouTube once we hit that 100 subscriber mark on the YouTube page, so that we can actually have a full handle. But we do need to get there here on the Chicago Man Hour page. We're there, large and in charge on the regular Man Hour page, but we just need to get there on the Chicago page, which we will. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there, but we've got people. So Johnny, head over to the YouTube page. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe on that one, and make sure you let the people at Southside Bags know to come like, share, and subscribe as well. We're gonna get that going. We got Bourbon Street coming up too.
I'm so excited for that. The draft. Whew.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I finalized some details with them this week. There is going to be some food and drink specials. It's going to be exciting, man. There's a lot of cool stuff. I haven't let you in on all of it yet. We're going to talk more after the show, but
surprise.
There's going to be a lot.
Let me be surprised now. Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing the Bears trade Justin Fields to Carolina Panthers. I don't understand that. You get Bryce Young, and then you get a 9th pick in the. I don't get it. Like, you're not
the ultimate Bears move, but I can't imagine they're going to do that. We're gonna talk about that in a little bit, but we talked about the bad about the White Sox. Now let's talk about some good.
Yeah.
Liam Hendriks shows up yesterday. I mean,
did a bullpen session too.
Yeah, and the pitching coach is damn near in tears talking about him, but he gives the team like this sense of excitement, according to all the players and all the coaches. Is he going to be that push for them all year? Like, is this the story? Like, we just talked about Liam Hendriks. Is this the thing that the Sox can hide Mike Clevenger behind? Is Liam Hendriks?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it is. The guy is a great guy. He's a great interview too. He's always he always tells the truth, especially last year when he was kind of hinting at the fact that nobody likes Tony La Russa, and he didn't really hint at it. He basically said it when Miguel Cairo took over.
He just said what everybody already knew.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that nobody liked him in the clubhouse, and he was a freaking vampire. Just brought everybody down. Made, like I said before, made one of the most interesting.
But he left for medical reasons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Maybe somebody put a microwave on right by his pacemaker. I don't know.
They installed one into his desk without him knowing. That they roll.
Yeah. They have a remote. Jerry Reinsdorf had a little remote, but I don't know if Jerry would do that. Maybe Rick Hahn did it, because I know Rick Hahn didn't want him. Oh, come on. The food is much better, Johnny. I'm sorry. Their food is much better. Johnny says, Fitz, don't you dare try to compare G-Spot with Wrigley Field. Food's better. We have more bars inside the stadium. I know you guys got us beat outside, but yeah, no, I think Liam Hendriks, I was looking forward to him having another good year. Throws a lot of strikes, man. I just like him a lot. I do. So
posted the link for the YouTube. Johnny said he could not find the YouTube link. For the love of God, post it on here, please. So I just posted it so that everybody can see it. They can see the link, copy, paste, put it in your browser.
It's on my Facebook page too.
Subscribe. Yep, I have it on my Facebook as well. So guys, make sure you guys get in there, like, share, and subscribe. Look, it doesn't. We don't. We don't charge. We don't charge for appearances. We don't charge for autographs. We don't charge for our show.
It's absolutely free.
But it does not cost you anything to like, share, and subscribe, and it helps us out tremendously. So please, when you get a chance, do so. But no, Liam Hendriks, I think it's going to be just like, I don't want to compare it to that, but it's going to be like when a team loses a player, right? Like you see the jerseys hanging up in the dugout, and you see their photos or whatever the case is, and it just gives that team that little push. It's going to be Liam Hendriks all year long. And if I'm Liam, and I know he's going through a tough battle right now, but if this team starts to get into a slump, all he's really got to do is show up at the ballpark, right? Because that is going to be a boost for a team that is down. You know what I mean? And Johnny says, "Can you sign my shot glass?"
Already thinking about alcohol at 10:15 in the morning.
Yeah. I mean, look,
You gotta like Johnny.
had an impromptu tournament last night at Shooter, so I'm sure.
Oh, they did.
As many shots as he could have. Yeah, I was gonna go, but I promised the mother-in-law that I would take her to bingo.
Wow.
So instead of throwing bags last night, I fulfilled my son-in-law duties and I took my mother.
I would have liked to be a fly on the wall to see you.
It was
bingo.
interesting. Dude,
Lots of old women.
Lots of old people, period.
Lots of people dressed in muumuus or
lots of complaining, lots of nagging about how hot it was, how fast they were calling out the numbers, all this other stuff. But it was fun. I mean, look, she had a good time, and that's all that matters. Every once in a while, we gotta get her out. I'm taking her to the casino next week.
We should have you should have taken some video there. We could have played it. Bingo's a sport, isn't it?
It is when you buy multiple cars, man. You should see some of these old ladies.
They're gonna tear a rotator cuff.
Like this whole table, she had like the whole table was covered with cards,
Yeah.
and they would call on one number, and she'd be like, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're gonna have a stroke.
Yeah.
Like
seriously,
it was insane.
They're gonna need Tommy John surgery, maybe.
Yeah. But I could not make it out to Bags last night, but I heard it was a good time. That they had a bunch of good shooters out there last night, as usual with Southside Bags. So, but look, Liam Hendricks, I think, is going to be a push for them all season long.
Is it a possibility he plays? I haven't followed. I mean, Scott Radinsky a long time ago was a decent relief pitcher for the Sox. Had cancer, and I think he missed a couple years. Treatments have changed. They have that immune therapy. I'm not a doctor.
What kind of cancer does he have again?
Lymphoma.
Okay, Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay. I'm almost 100% sure. I'll look up.
That's a tough one. It's not one that is easy to come back from, and he's got a long road ahead of him. I know that the treatments for Hodgkin lymphoma are really, really intense.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
It's not like the testicular cancer or the thyroid cancer. Where you could just have surgery and have her removed.
Take a nut off.
Yeah, it's an intense one. So
yeah, I feel bad for the guy. Like I said, I like him. He's one of my favorite players on the Sox. And people say stuff because he does get hit around a lot, but he's got the balls to pitch a lot of strikes, man. When his slider is breaking, the fastball's a little flat. That's why it gets hit a lot. He's got to spot it. He's got to have location on that fastball, or he just gets like he did in that Field of Dreams game, which I was going to mention. He was probably the coolest sound interview at that Field of Dreams game. Like he was just excited, and what is it with the Australians who just love America?
Yeah.
Like they all love America. I like it, but because I love America, but maybe after Fitz gibberish, you might think different, but yeah. So,
look, when it comes to Australia, and there's going to be, I just heard there's going to be a preseason hockey game next year played in Australia. So there's a lot of, what's funny is that when I coached on a junior college team, our goalie, who was one of the most phenomenal goalies I've ever seen, he was from Australia.
Really?
And I said, how do you start playing hockey in Australia? He's like, a lot of travel.
Yeah, that's true, man. Wow.
Yeah. He said we had one rink.
That's dedication.
And he only use it for like 1 month a year. He's like, so he left his family at like 8 years old to go play hockey. Like his mom and dad sent him to go live with his aunt in another country to go play hockey. And
that's dedication, man.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow.
Did
he go pro? Get close to pro?
He went into, I believe he was on Team Australia in the junior worlds, and then after that he went off to college, but I haven't seen him anywhere in the pros since. But
you never know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where sometimes you lose. No fun, America. Sometimes you lose track of people. You know what I mean? It's just it's how the world works nowadays. Even with social media.
Yeah.
I still tend to lose track of people. But
Yep.
So the Cubs signed Edwin Rios.
Another lefty.
Another lefty.
I mean, yeah, you can't have enough of them. It's a lefty sport.
Third baseman. They were in spring training for 2 days, and they started putting Nick Madrigal at third to take reps at third base.
Ooh.
And I think 2 days of watching Nick Madrigal at third base sent them out on a mission to find a third baseman.
You can't have a guy on your corner infield who, tops out at maybe 10 home runs. I mean, whether he could play defense there, I don't know. He was a decent defensive player. He was a minus on the Sox, but I'm sure, that was his first year. He didn't play many games with the Sox that year. He got hurt, shortened, and then traded to the Cubs. So,
yeah, and I just, when you're putting Nick Madrigal at third base, it's not a ideal situation. But you've got Christopher Morel, who I think could be a phenomenal third baseman, and you've got Patrick Wisdom, who I think could be a phenomenal. No, he can't. Never mind. One guy that I don't know, and I don't know if he just fell off of the face of the earth. I don't know what the hell. Where the hell is David Bodie?
Yeah, I know. They gave him that contract. What was it? 5 years, 7 year contract
about 3 years ago.
Couple of mil a
he's
year.
not even listed on their depth chart.
Had that game, that grand slam. That was
I have the autographed photo in my basement.
That was pretty magical stuff, man. Even from a Sox fan. But yeah, I don't know. Why not give him another shot? He's got some pop in the bat. He could play third base. I mean,
that's his natural position is third base.
That's
I mean, he's still listed in the organization, but he's not even on the major league depth chart. He's not on the 40-man roster.
Sheesh.
And I don't know why the kid. I mean, look, he was never going to be one of those guys who hits 300 and hits for 25, 30 home runs.
Yeah.
And it's just a world beater. But he's a damn solid defensive player. And he doesn't kill you with the stick. As Johnny says, I like Wisdom on third. Johnny, I think you take too many shots when you watch Wisdom on third. He is a terrible third baseman, and he's a DH. I'm okay with him pitching at DH. I do not want him at third base. If I had to watch him every day at third base this year, I would freaking poke him.
Yeah, I mean he's going to play some games at third base, but he doesn't have to play more than 40 or 30. You know what I mean? Yeah. Have him in there to rest, Bodie or whoever they have there. If Rios is going to be there, it's going to be by committee. It looks like. I don't think anybody's going to be secure there until next year.
Yeah, and I don't think you need to see him there. I got Christopher Morel. I love this kid. This kid is just one of those guys that is just a spark plug. And if he can do what he did in the first half of last season, he's going to be fun to watch. He's
probably got to adjust to scouts at this point. That happens to a lot of young players, and they either adjust or they're bagging your groceries.
Right. And now you bring on Evan Rios, who hasn't played in more than 32 games in a season. Like his most plate appearances is 92 in his career. So you're getting a guy who has potential. He's 27 years old. A guy who they call a slugger, but I mean he's only got 20 home runs in 4 seasons. So, I mean,
how many games played?
112 games played.
Okay.
So
that's kind of a slugger, 20 home runs, and yeah.
He's got a career 299 OBP.
That's going to be a problem. He's far off Barry Bonds' pace.
He's got a 791 OPS.
Well, that ain't bad. I mean, their slugging's numbers guy has to be ridiculous.
It's 492.
Yeah.
But
close to 500, but
he had 27 games. In 27 games last year, he had 7 home runs.
Ooh, well,
92 plate appearances, 7 home runs.
Wow.
So Is third base going to be a problem for the Cubs all year? There's just going to be a
It
platoon. It's going to
probably
be a
is.
platoon position.
Maybe you'll get lucky. I mean, you're a year or two away. I think you've said that before. Maybe even 2 years away, which is fine. But I mean, they're
I
still
think
going
they
to be
could win the division
competitive.
this year.
I mean, it's not a great
They're going
division.
to be there.
Milwaukee has like a bipolar GM. It's just that St. Louis team. That could be trouble, especially if they get on a run. They get some good pitching. And I know that's a lot of ifs, or they could fall flat on their face. I mean, half the team could get hurt,
I was so excited last night because I purchased tickets for the first time the Cardinals come to town behind home plate.
Giddy like a school.
It's a night game, and it'll be Wilson Contreras' first game back in a Cardinals uniform. So I will stand and I will cheer as he takes to the plate the first time.
And then after that,
every pitch after that for the next 5 years, I believe his contract is, I will boo the shit out of him.
Could you imagine if he just explodes?
He wins the MVP and they win the World Series. God, don't even get me started on
how many years of good catching has St. Louis had? I mean, it's going to be like 25 years when he's done. 25, 30
That's
years.
What boggles my mind, and I've said it before about the Wilson Contreras thing. The Cubs, for whatever reason, did not want to bring Wilson Contreras back on any sort of deal. But the Cardinals, who very rarely miss on players, chose Wilson Contreras to take over for their Hall of Fame catcher of like 20 plus years.
Yeah. One of the best catchers of all time in my mind.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Jose Abreu with the Astros picking him up. It's like they know something. They know he's going to be good for, this next 3 to 4 years or however long they want to keep him. And it's the same thing with St. Louis and Wilson Contreras. They know there's something there that he's still got a lot of baseball left in him. He's pushing 30, correct?
Yeah.
So I mean, which is always an issue with a catcher, but there's catchers that have played well into their 30s. Molina being one of them. Brzezinski played till he was 40, even though he wasn't much of a defensive catcher at the end. But still, St. Louis does know something.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about
and they don't miss on players.
No,
and they went out and got your guy, and now we're sitting here. And I'm not saying Tucker Barnhart is a terrible catcher. But he's not Wilson Contreras.
No, Tucker Burn. He's a good defensive catcher, though, one of the better ones in the league. So, I mean, you need something like that with a young pitching staff.
Yeah, and I think he's going to fit right in with the team.
Yeah.
Like, he's got personality. I watched him during the Cubs convention, some of the conversations he was having. I listened to him talk. I think he's going to fit right in with the team.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the Wilson.
I don't really like the name Tucker. Either.
Yeah,
I mean, that's probably why they're trying out a lot of guys at third base too. They want to have a decent defense for that young pitching staff. That's the worst thing you could do with a young pitching staff is have a bad defense behind them.
Yeah.
It can mess up an entire game. One error can for a young guy. They lose their concentration quickly. And you got not Liam Hendricks, Kyle Hendricks pitching for you, who pitches to contact. He's going to try to pitch probably 25, 30 games this year. Try to get in 200 innings. I don't know if you're going to get that from him, but still, I mean, that's a lot of innings you have for a contact pitcher.
If you get 150 innings out of him, you're happy, right? Happy. Like, that's the thing with the Cubs rotation is that there's no, they don't have a number one. They might not have a number two, but they got a bunch of number threes.
Yeah.
I can see them competing in this division. I really could. I just think that they might be one of those teams that at the deadline goes out and finds a third baseman. Who's the best third baseman on the market that you can get?
Yeah. After being competitive.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch. I think Christopher Morel ultimately will win that job over there, though. I mean, he's solid. Edwin Rios, I think, will be a platoon player, and
tough righties.
Morel a night off here and there. But yeah, I don't. Contreras was voted as a starter in the MLB All-Star game in 18, 19, and 22. He signed with the Cardinals as a free agent after the 22 season. Yeah, I mean, what did you copy and paste off of Wikipedia? What are you talking about here? I like Johnny is. I think he did. He copied and pasted.
It's an Eduardo Contreras born the 8th. He's 31. You're going to be 31 in May.
Yeah.
Venezuela, a lot of good players. Catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but does a pitching staff, at least for me in the NL, do you judge a pitching staff different because there's a DH in the NL now? Because you could get away with a pitching staff that had a bunch of 3s and maybe a 2 and still make the playoffs. Can you still do that now? Can you still win 85 to 90
Yeah,
games?
but you can't win in the postseason.
Yeah, no, you can't.
No, if you don't have a dominant 1-2,
no.
You can't even compete. Like you can't compete with teams like the New York Mets right now with that pitching staff that they have.
No,
you can't compete with the Dodgers, Padres.
Mm-hmm.
Like those 3 teams right there have dominant 1-2-3s.
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, they've got 3 number 1s in their 1-2-3, and you've got 3 number 3s.
Phillies even have a decent staff, not great, but above average for sure.
And they've got a solid bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't. The Cubs are not a threat in the NL. They're a threat in the NL Central, but they're not a threat once they get into the playoffs right now. Like you don't know what moves they go and make during the season, what moves they make prior to the deadline. I would have liked to have seen them get a frontline starter.
Are the Cubs a threat if they have Dylan Cease? I mean,
you make it easier week in and week out to start hating the Sox again.
Yes. I'm giving you a lot of reasons. I mean, he was coming off Tommy John surgery when they traded him. I'm not going to say they didn't know. I mean, some people thought he had the stuff to be a Cy Young winner, and where he almost won last year. And you didn't know he was going to become this, but it is something to think about.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be fun. Look, I'm super pumped. We've got spring training coming up. We've got the World Baseball Classic. Are you looking forward to World Baseball Classic?
I want to. I don't know. I don't want
lineup is stacked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want Lance Lynn pitching in it, but he is, just because he was injured for part of the season last season, and he couldn't work out of it for a while. Came on late. And
you're not okay with your players playing in the World Baseball Classic?
Not a pitcher.
You're anti-American.
I'm anti-American.
You don't want the U.S. to perform well.
I support the Taliban. I follow the Taliban on Twitter.
Okay.
The Taliban has
that to a whole nother level. That went from 0 to 60 real quick.
I know. I just learned this though. The Taliban has a blue check mark on Twitter. I don't know why I'm saying that right now, but they do.
Do they really?
They do. Yes, it's ridiculous. But anyway, I digress as usual. I just don't want my pitcher pitching in there. I mean, they.
So you're okay with TA, even though he was out for half the season last year?
I am.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I'm excited to see him
make the case to me that it's just spring training, that they're going to be doing this anyway. But I don't think Lance Lynn or Tim Anderson can go 80% on the field or 90% or watch their health. I think they're going to go 100%.
But watching Tim Anderson on the field is going to be a lot like watching Javi Baez and Yadi Molina a couple years back, right? When they were playing for Puerto Rico.
That was great,
so
man.
much fun to watch.
They kept flipping their bats, and it was so fun. That's what baseball should look like.
Yadi threw out a runner at second, and before he even caught the ball, Baez was pointing at him and cheering already before he even tagged out.
Yes, that was a great
stuff that I love,
baseball class, and that's how baseball should be. Actually, they kind of showed like this is how baseball is in the Dominican Republic or Venezuela or they do have that winter league in the Dominican Republic. That must be fun. I don't think I haven't seen a broadcast of one, but I would like to watch a game of that.
Yeah, I love the World Baseball Classic. I go on. I mean, my TV always stays on sports networks, but I'll watch MLB Network all season long, all year long. And I was watching the other day, and they had like classic games on and stuff, and they had like the 2013 or 2012. I'll say which one was it? The Rangers and the Cardinals, and it was like back and forth for like 15 innings or something like that. It was so much fun. It was a ton of fun to watch. Cardinals ended up coming back and winning Game 6 and 7. That was tough to see again, but it was such a great series.
Yeah.
I didn't really care, but we started a segment last week, Fitz Gibberish.
Oh God, here we go.
Want to get back into it again?
Yeah, let's get back into it again.
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to another installment of Fitz Gibberish, the weekly spot of bad language and worse sports thoughts. Around a diatribe, a tangent, sidebar, an island, and a sometimes inaccurate sports thought. So I'm titling these now, I guess. Super Bowl hangover. The NFL is basketball with traveling, or I'm just pissed about betting on the under. As I sat there,
I told you.
As I sat there watching the Super Bowl last Sunday, while slowly turning my liver into limestone, something occurred to me. It's something most of us in my age range have noticed. Many people try to ignore. Some think it's needed. But if we're all being honest, it's bullshit. Yes, my friends, the NFL is basketball with traveling. At 5:30 p.m. Central on Sunday, when both teams got ready to play, Philadelphia had the best defense in the league, and it wasn't even really close. Number one in many of the categories that counted, including passing yards allowed. One reason was they had the most sacks in a season since the 85 Bears. The Chiefs had probably the best defense in years for them. They don't try to play defense, but they had the second most sacks, and they were solidly in the top 10. Final score, though, 38-35 Chiefs. Not far off the scripted score of 37-34, but I digress. And it should have been way higher, less for a penalty by James Bradbury and a slide by Jerick McKinnon. How about that penalty by Bradbury? That decided the Super Bowl. A grab, or barely a grab. Didn't help that every news outlet with a viewer fell all over themselves to say it was a penalty. They even had Bradbury go up there and kiss the ring of Roger Goodell and admit it was a penalty. Look, I don't have to go back to the time of Dick Butkus when you could hit a QB so hard his grandkids had learning disabilities. But like I asked Combs last week, how did we get here? One reason, Goodell would flush his kids down the toilet to protect the NFL. Another is far more disturbing.
More disturbing than flushing your kids down the toilet?
I wrote this at 2 a.m. on Friday. Anyway, as a people, or at least as a sports people, we are getting less and less daring and more boring every year, it seems. We aren't even vanilla ice cream anymore. We're beige ice cream. Don't think beige is an ice cream flavor? Well, fuck off. It is now. Plus, in some of the off-brand
it's called sherbet.
Yeah, there is some off-brands that do have ice cream that looks beige. The color of quiet desperation, old, slow, boring sex, mediocrity, too much compromise, and Kirk Cousins' entire career. I get the irony that my skin color is a shade of beige, but isn't that why we risk cancer to get a tan? White is even better than beige because at least it's a canvas. Can you imagine Rembrandt asking for a beige canvas? That was a penalty on Bradbury, but I have missed showers with more thrust. Has one penalty changed the NFL? Has one penalty changed the NFL more than defensive holding being an automatic first down? Is there a position in sports more frustrating than quarterback? It's hard to fault the best defense in the league. The same defense that is number one in passing yards, by the way, for not even being allowed to cover Mama Kelsey. I mean, how many people were open on Sunday? Where did she sit during the game, by the way? Yeah, right next to Goodell. For the uninitiated, unless they make a good, educated guess, or they're playing against a Matt Nagy-led offense, the quarterback does not know what route the receiver is running. On top of that, they can't graze the player without a penalty. Quarterbacks in this league look like Mike Ditka at the beginning of a Cialis commercial. Soft, ineffective, and pleading to be bailed out. Who do you feel more sorry for? Mrs. Ditka or James Bradbury? Mrs. Ditka after Mike Ditka has half a bottle of Cialis. Anyway, roughing the passer, pass interference, illegal contact. How many times are these called for almost no contact at all, or because you pushed Aaron Rodgers? Or do any of us fully understand these judgment calls? Encroachment. Remember when a defensive player could cross the line of scrimmage and get back before they hiked the ball? Not anymore. They don't even know the snap count. What does this do to the game? Well, it drains the damn suspense from it until it's totally predictable. Last team to have the ball wins almost all the time because the refs are trigger happy with flags. Sounds familiar. Yeah, it's called the NBA. After the game, Terry Bradshaw called Andy Reid big guy, asked him to waddle over, and if he wanted a cheeseburger. For all his antics, Terry Bradshaw has had the job at Fox since 1994 because he is vanilla ice cream. He really doesn't do a lot of controversial things. But no, we want beige ice cream. People are calling for his job because he was fat shaming him. This country is as predictable as a wet fart after a night of drinking Budweiser. Which brings me to my next point. If you haven't seen the movie District 9, and it made $210 million, so where have you been? In it, a somewhat morally compromised field agent, and I'm going far off here, by the way, I know that, contracts a mysterious virus when he's sprayed by an alien object. The virus slowly turns him into those aliens who look like giant grasshoppers. Now, you can't tell me Andy Reid wasn't sprayed in a similar way by a walrus. You want to call me a fat shamer? The only problem is Reid jokes that he looks like a walrus about eating too many cheeseburgers. And he is a big guy. We're sending heavy machinery across continents to kill thousands of people in a land most of us will never visit, with people speaking a language almost none of us can understand. We are worried about fat shaming. We argue about penalties that should never be rules in the first place. I miss the days when we didn't kid ourselves and let Goodell manipulate us into thinking football was anything but violent and not good for you. It's not. But so what? Neither is living if you're doing it right. Half our ads, shows, music, movies were anthems to just that thinking. Plus, Bradshaw is fat. Obese even. Does that not give him license? McDonald's certainly thinks so. While they help build food deserts around this great country of ours with catchy jingles. Bradshaw will be fine. We shouldn't be worried about him. Maybe if this show, our show, or other shows like it were a little bit bigger, we'd get canceled. And that's what we should worry about. Maybe we should get messy again. Say what we think, mean what we say, respect those who do, especially when we don't agree with them. And maybe instead of beige, go back to red, white, and motherfucking blue, baby.
America.
But maybe, just maybe, I should have taken the over. And segment.
I told you should have taken the over.
I know.
I told you during our football show. I told you during our pregame show. I said take the over. I said I was pushing. I said I was pushing over to 80. I was closer than you were on the under.
Yeah. No, you were. I thought it was going to get above 80.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about at the end. If it wasn't for the penalty and maybe the slide and all that, it could have gotten over. But I mean, it's getting predictable, the NFL, especially now. I'm not saying it wasn't a good game. It was. There was a lot of things going on, a lot of cool storylines. Even the Mama Kelsey storyline was pretty good.
Yeah.
They seemed like two great guys. But I mean, whoever had the ball last was going to win that game. And then what does the better team even win, really? Like, I mean, the penalties, it's too much to watch. That's why, it's kind of like watching the NBA now.
So I got into arguments with people all week long on Facebook about the penalty.
Yeah.
And I get that Chiefs fans are really one-sided about it. Oh, it was a penalty, blah, blah, stop crying, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. It was a penalty. By the letter of the law, it was a penalty. But put your Chiefs fandom aside. Put your Eagles fandom aside, right? And look at this from a third party. Now, I've been a ref. I've refed hockey all the way up to college. I've refed football. I've umped baseball. And the thing that they teach you all the way up the ranks is consistency, right? You set the tone early. If you are making calls early and you are...
They were letting them play. Well, go on, but yeah.
There are games where heading into them, it might get chippy. So you're going to set a tone early. You get chippy. You do something stupid early, I'm throwing a flag. You're holding... throwing a flag on everything to kind of settle all that stuff down, because once the players get in their minds, hey, these guys are throwing flags, so we need to chill out, then they chill out. But the bad precedence that you set is if you're letting everything go, you're letting everyone play, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because consistency is the key. So for 58 minutes, you let everything go. There were holding calls. There was helmet to helmets. There was face masks. Everything.
Hands in the face on one of those plays that wasn't called. Yeah.
Jalen Hurts fumble.
Yeah.
The guy had a freaking hand in his damn face mask. And I was okay with all of that stuff because you're letting it all go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I like games like that.
You're letting them play. And then you make that call. I don't know, but Juju Smith-Schuster was not getting to that football. There was no way he was catching that football. Even if he wasn't held off the line of scrimmage, that ball was so far overthrown.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting to it. You can't make that call.
No, to decide the Super Bowl.
A bad call. Not the fact that it wasn't the right call, because it was. But it's a bad call because you didn't call it for 58 freaking minutes.
Yeah, and you let it decide the Super Bowl.
You were letting them go. And it didn't decide the Super Bowl because instead of it being a first down, or instead of it being fourth down and they kick a field goal to take the lead anyway, which they won by a field goal, what it did do was take the opportunity away from Philadelphia.
Exactly.
To give them the chance to at least come back.
How that game was going, though, everybody was open. And why is everybody open all the time? When I watched football 25 years ago, you never saw guys open like this.
Well, see, that's what a lot of people are saying. People are like, "Oh, the Philly defense said they couldn't stop Mahomes." Mahomes averages 300 yards a game. They held him to under 190.
They did. You're right.
It's not like they didn't do their job. They did their job. Look, they had a rough second half. I mean, the Eagles were all over them in the first. I told you too, didn't I?
Yeah.
Did I say by halftime the Eagles are going to be out to some sort of big lead?
Yeah. No, it happened just the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this call won me money. I was happy about the call because I won $275 off of the call. So I was happy with the call. But you can't make that call in that situation. And that's what I like. I'm not saying that it was wrong or it wasn't holding or the Chiefs, or the Eagles got screwed or the Chiefs were handed the Super Bowl. None of that. Chiefs went out there and they won that Super Bowl in the second half. The Eagles let them come back.
Yeah.
You had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and you lost the football game. Regardless of that call or not, you lost the football game.
That's a good point. Position. Yeah.
They might not have drove back downfield because they weren't moving the ball very well in the second half. The Chiefs defense stood up and did their thing in the second half.
And they didn't let them run all over them either. And the Chiefs actually had some good runs, which was surprising. I'm not saying
it was a bad call, but what I'm saying is you can't make that call at that point.
Yeah,
you're not making calls. The game. That's what makes it a bad call, is because it's bad officiating.
Yeah.
It's not. Again, it's not that it shouldn't have been a penalty, because it should have. Everybody's admitted that it should have been a penalty. And I said this the night of the Super Bowl. I called Buck about it because he's a Chiefs fan, and I knew he was going to be over the moon. I wanted to bring him down a little bit, right? So that's why I like to shit in his Cheerios. So I called Buck and I said, "Dude, that was definitely, that shouldn't have been called." And he's like, "Oh, what do you mean? It had to be called." I said, "No, it shouldn't have been called. It's just bad officiating because you didn't call it all game long and then you let it decide the game. That is the epitome of what they teach you not to do." Like you're taught that from the levels
Yeah.
of coaching Pee Wee football. And now you're in the NFL making these calls. And Roger Goodell still has the nerve to say this is the best season or the best officiating they've ever
Unbelievable.
had.
Yeah, I mean there was a similar game the Bears played where they came back against the Vikings. I think we talked about it at the time. I think that was one of our first shows or second shows. Yeah, we literally that's what we do on the show. We relitigate the past. But it was the complete opposite. They were calling everything in that game. And there was a pass interference call that was nothing that was called on Jalen Johnson. And then the Bears get the ball back to end the game. They had their last drive. And we never really got to see the drive because Chase Claypool gets basically tackled and there's no call.
Yeah.
And it's like you're calling that all game and then you just stop calling that the last 2 minutes of the game. Like, what the hell? And it did decide that game because the Bears, next down was 4th down. And it would have been like a 30 or 40 yard play. They would have had like 10 more yards to go to kick a field goal and win. They lost by like a point or two.
Yeah.
I don't remember the actual score, but it was the same thing. Yeah. No, the officiating hasn't been good. And it gets worse because a lot of these penalties probably shouldn't be penalties. It probably shouldn't be a rule. I mean, I get why they make it first down because you're holding a guy and who knows where the play could have gone. I get the logic there. But
that's when you should be able to separate pass interference and holding, right?
It's just like, I mean, it's changed football. That's changed football. Horse collar tackling and roughing the passer has changed football. The way they call those calls. Like maybe, I don't know. I don't know how things change. I just think it's going more into that way to where they just want offense. And it makes the game more predictable. It really does.
Yeah. And to me, it's not like this was an aberration year for officials, right? Officiating in the NFL has been bad for about 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's getting progressively worse.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't get when he comes out and says, I don't understand how a guy whose job it is to watch football every day and sit there and lie to you, and because we know what we're seeing.
He thinks he definitely thinks that the IQ level of his fandom is really low because of some of the shit he says. Yeah. And he purposely tries to manipulate them with all these penalties that, we're protecting the players. You don't get CTE exclusively from concussions. You get them from subconcussive hits, from constantly hitting. And that's what they do in football. So let's stop this charade and how we do everything. That's why I think it's connected to the Terry Bradshaw thing. Do we really give a shit that he called a big guy? Does anybody really care about that? Or is it like one person cares about it? Like, or a couple people on Twitter care about it? Like, who really cares that one fat guy is calling another guy fat?
Look, I'm a fat kid. I tell people all the time. People would be like, "Oh, where do you want to go for lunch?" I'll be like, "Dude, I'm a fat kid. Wherever you want to go." Like,
we just had tacos the other day.
That's just America, though, man.
Yeah,
that's the world we live in right now, where it's just everybody's offended by everything. But maybe that's a good transition because speaking of being offended, speaking of thinking that your fan base's IQ is low. There's a new rumor out there that the Bears are trading Justin Fields to Carolina. You talked about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Offseason, free agency begins on February 21st. The Bears have the number 1 draft pick. Now, I don't believe that would be a straight up trade with Carolina for the number 1 overall pick because that would be stupid.
Yeah.
You're going to give Justin Fields and the number 1 overall pick or what are you doing here? So this is all smokescreen, right? I know. Did Virginia McCaskey die yet?
No,
she's still alive.
Blood pressure check, 100 years old, and I'm telling you, I'll say it again. Bezos is putting a lot of money into de-aging people, so she might live to be 100. She might outlast you with the way you eat. I mean,
this is why life is just so unfair because you get people out there who are living their lives to be 100 years old, sucking the souls out of fan bases, and it's just not fair. Like she should have died years ago. But the Bears offseason, this is a new regime.
Yeah,
right.
It is.
And I can't imagine. This would be, if this was 2 years ago, I would be like, yeah, we're going to trade Fields. And we're going to draft Bryce Young, and he's going to have a concussion week 1 and never play football.
No,
ever
Nagy
again.
would have done that for sure.
Oh,
He
yeah.
would want a pocket passer or
Yeah.
whatever the hell that is. He's in the
Yeah, and he
Chiefs,
clearly didn't want
and
Fields.
Mahomes is not a total
No.
pocket passer. He can do it, but he plays out of the pocket.
How
all
about
the
them?
time.
How about them grooming him to be the successor to Andy Reid? By the way,
Are you serious?
Yeah, Chiefs fans got to be out of their mind.
God,
I
Reed better start eating salads if
Yeah.
you're a Kansas City fan.
Yeah, you better start sending them some salad coupons. But no, if this was a couple years ago, I would say we're doing it. I believe in this regime, and to me, and I got in this argument again with my buddy Wayne G, who was on the Recasted podcast. You guys can hear it. I just did a Recasted podcast with him where we
Very
recasted.
cool. I gotta check it out.
8 Men Out.
Oh
actually.
yeah, you were telling me
Yeah.
about that. Love
So,
that movie.
It was a lot. Oh, dude, it was one of my favorite baseball movies ever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well done.
So check that out at the Recasted podcast. But I was talking with Wayne, and he thinks that I'm an idiot for saying that there is zero chance the Bears should trade Justin Fields. And you're not going to get anything in this draft that is a better product right now in the NFL than what Justin Fields is. Now, could they turn out to be better, when it's all said and done? Sure, but the things that everybody who wants the Bears to trade Justin Fields right now are saying is the same thing Philadelphia fans were saying last year about Jalen Hurts. And then the Eagles went and built around Jalen Hurts, and they went to the Super Bowl this year.
Yep.
And I believe we have the same thing in Justin Fields. I believe we have the better version in Justin Fields. I believe Justin Fields is a better overall quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
Better runner for sure. Maybe the top 5 man with the ball in his hands in the league right now.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable. Yeah, but he's not going to be doing that for the rest of his career. And even if it's not sustainable, let's say he only has a 7 or 8 year career, it's going to be dynamic. But I think he does want to throw from the pocket. And if he has 400 or 500 yards a year, like a lot of these guys, your Josh Allens are turning into that. Jalen Hurts is basically that, where he bails you out of a third down. You don't have to call runs for Justin Fields. That's the one thing I didn't like about the Bears offense this season. They called way too many runs for him. That's got to go away, because his scrambling, all the plays that were the 60-yard plays when you have 5 plays over 50 yards with running, all those plays were scrambles. So why are we designing runs for him? Especially at the goal line too, a couple of times. Now it paid off, but
yeah, I think that when it all boils down, I think that with Justin Fields, you are going to be closer to Patrick Mahomes, what's his face out there in Buffalo,
Josh Allen.
Yeah,
I
believe you're going to be closer to that type of quarterback play than you are going to be the quarterback play that you've seen over the last 2 years out of Justin Fields, which again, this past year wasn't atrocious. He set the rushing record. He was still doing things with wide receivers that couldn't catch a cold.
Yeah.
And an offensive line that couldn't block to save their lives.
No.
So imagine what happens when you give him protection, when you give him weapons. I think that everything about trading Justin Fields right now from the Bears is a smokescreen. Anytime I hear it, I just roll my eyes, because it's just about gaining leverage for that number 1 pick.
Yeah, and do you think, you mentioned Rich Eisen, the Rich Eisen show? I went back and looked at that interview. Do you think Justin Fields might have lied in that interview? Maybe done a play action fake? That's what quarterbacks do. They lie for that's their job, is to lie and fake things out. And, he said the Bears didn't tell him anything whether they were going to trade him or not. There's no way.
He lawyered the shit out of him.
Yes, exactly. And you want that perception to be out there. But what you're going to get the 9th pick in the draft for him? And what was the scenario? And maybe like a 3rd rounder? And
so if you're getting first of all, if I'm getting Justin Fields, I'm getting 3 firsts. You know what I mean? Like if I'm giving you Justin Fields and you're Carolina,
Yeah.
you're giving me 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, something
plus
like
a couple
that, or at
of
least
seconds
2.
and maybe even a third.
Yeah.
Like you in order to get Justin Fields, you've got to give me the world. And then maybe I'll think about it. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But and I don't think that's going to be on the table. That's,
well, Carolina would be smart to do it. The Bears would be stupid to do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense in any stretch because CJ Stroud is not a guy who is going to come in and set you on fire. As a matter of fact,
it's Justin Fields light.
If you trade with Indy and they take CJ Stroud and you get next year's first out of it with that trade, I'm looking forward to that because the Bears could be really good and still have a top number 1.
Exactly.
So I don't see a scenario where it works out well for the Bears if they do this. And if they do this, man, I don't know if I can hang on as a Bears fan.
Yeah, it'd be tough. And I don't see that happening. They're going to build a line for him too. I mean, look at that Chiefs line. Yeah. And from what I've heard, Ryan Poles had his fingerprints all over that line. Yeah. That was probably the difference in the game, other than, James Bradbury. But
and there is a good offensive tackle.
Orlando Brown Jr. Yeah,
coming
man.
as a free agent from Kansas City.
Something. And then you don't have to draft one. He already knows what he's doing.
Yes.
He kind of had problems in the offseason when I went through some free agents a few weeks ago. We talked about it, where he did have kind of problems with the Chiefs.
Yep.
And they had a franchise tag him. Now they can do it one more time, which I think it's a no-brainer. They're going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they can't take him long term with Mahomes' contract and all the other contracts they're juggling around over there. But maybe they do sign him long term. I don't know.
Nothing they do in the offseason, in free agency, I should say, nothing they do in free agency is going to hinder the value of that number 1 pick. Carolina still could think that, hey, you might, sure, you built the line and you got wide receivers and you did everything you needed to do in free agency. Doesn't mean you're building around Justin. Maybe you're building that for CJ Stroud. Maybe you're building that for Bryce Young. Maybe you're doing that for the next guy.
I like Will Levi. Go down a rabbit hole with that guy on YouTube. I mean, that's something. But he's still Will Levi is just maybe Justin Fields, right. Probably not.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I still think that there is a pathway, and I keep hearing the Bears aren't going to get a haul for the number 1 overall pick, and I don't believe that that's true. And maybe you don't even need a haul. Like I said before, you trade the number 1 to Houston for the number 2 and the number 12 and a second-round pick. It's not a haul. Not for the number 1 overall pick. And then you flip number 2 to Indy for number 4, and maybe their early second round, which is not a haul. They get their quarterbacks. You would now have the 4 and the 12. You've got Will Anderson or the kid out of
Jalen Carter. Yeah,
you got one of those 2 guys, and then at 12, your receiver could be there. Whether it's Quentin Johnston, whether it is the kid out of
I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna try to do his name.
Yeah, you might
Fields even commented that he would like that.
Yeah, and that to me is the Bears not getting a haul, but still having a very good draft.
Yeah,
a very good offseason where you build around Justin Fields, you get him all the tools that he needs to succeed. And you don't have to get a haul back for the number 1 pick. So the more and more they talk about trading Fields is the more and more I believe that we're probably getting closer to that double trade in the first round.
Yeah,
you get 2 and then you get 4 and 12.
That would be great. The only thing is this is a league that is known for collusion.
Yeah.
And are the teams going to allow the Bears to do that? Are those 2 teams going to come together and be like, don't let them double trade. Like, we can't give them this much stuff, but teams get desperate for a quarterback too.
Yeah. Indy's
could just be like, we'll wait for
Indy's
Will Levi.
GM said he'll move heaven and earth.
Thanks for tipping your hand.
Heaven and earth to get his quarterback.
I can't believe the Colts.
Yes, if you go in and you say, yes, we're going to trade with you, where you're going to get one of the quarterbacks. But it's going to be number 2, not number 1, because we're trading number 1 to Houston. They're trading up a spot because we're going to get number 2 and number 12 for them. We'll give you 2 for 4 and your early second round pick. Done.
Yeah.
We're not asking for the world. We're not even asking for a pick next year. It makes so much sense on so many levels to pull off a trade that allows you to have number 4 and number 12, even though you're putting 2 teams in on it. And it makes sense for both of those teams to make those trades. It makes sense for Houston to move up to get whatever guy they want, whether it's Levi, whether it's Stroud, whether it's Young. It makes sense for them to move up. It makes sense for Indy to make the trade to number 2 to get one of the 2 top quarterbacks that's left, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a far-fetched idea that the Bears end up with 4, 12, and 3 second-round picks.
Oh, man. Yeah, then you can build a line. You can get your wide receiver.
Yeah. Or even if you don't get the early second-round pick from Indy, and maybe you get the first-round pick in Quentin Nelson.
Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, there's so many scenarios. I mean, I just there's so many people talking about the Bears right now for the first time since 2006.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. And
you talk about collusion. I mean, you talk about teams saying, well, maybe Roger Goodell gets in there and be like, hey, look, this would be really good for us if this charter franchise becomes a juggernaut.
He'll put his thumb on the scale. Maybe not for the Bears, but
I mean,
he will.
Yeah. Look, this guy, I mean, this league, I should say, not even just this guy, but this league is built around money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's why he's still in. He would have been gone long ago, but he's making people too much money.
Any of the owners care about whether or not they actually win the Super Bowl? They like it. They like to win the Super Bowl, right? Like
I just think they like power.
You think Virginia McCaskey over the last 40 years has cared whether or not she's won the Super Bowl? Clearly, she doesn't. Clearly, the McCaskies just care about the money.
It's hard. I mean, the Bears, the last 40 or without the 85, the last 35 years.
Jeremiah says, just give us all the picks. And we'll still fuck it up and be 3-15 next year.
We'll still mess it up. We have an all-star team and we mess it up. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, the last 35 years, the Bears make the White Sox look like a well-oiled machine. I mean,
yeah,
it's just been terrible. One bad decision after another. One bad Mark Trestman over Bruce Arians. Are you fucking kidding me? And you take an interview with Bruce Arians and then
Eric Bieniemy. Matt Nagy, who wasn't even calling plays for that offense, but was given all the credit for that offense for some reason or another, got the job over Eric Bieniemy, who still does not have a head coaching, which is beyond me. Because before, when they were going after Trestman last year, I wanted Bieniemy. That was my number one. That's what I was screaming for on the Man Hour. Was like, we need to go get Bieniemy. We need Eric Bieniemy needs to be the number one target. And I thought with having Ryan Poles, I was like, oh, this is a done deal. Of course he's gonna bring Bieniemy over. And then he went out and I'm like, who? I said, what the hell did we do?
Yeah, who is this guy? That's why my dad calls him the Ace Hardware helper or repairman, because he's like a nobody. He looks like a nobody.
Jeremiah says he wouldn't do a mock press conference. That's why they lost Arians. Really? That's the first time ever.
They wouldn't. He would. Yeah, maybe they wouldn't do or say. He wouldn't say what they wanted him to say. That's interesting. To not have one of the better head coaches in the league because of that.
So Ryan Pace. So Chicago Bears.
Yeah,
that's why I'm saying I think that, especially with the Arlington Heights deal now being official, and they closed on the property, and I know they haven't just said whether or not they're actually going to move out of Chicago yet, but now they have the property. They closed on it. It's a done deal. The Bears own Arlington Heights.
Are you going to wear a Southside Chicago Cardinals jersey? All right, we can end the show. Thanks everybody for listening.
I won't even support St. Lawrence High School because they have the St. Louis logo. My one of my good friends, both of his kids go to St. Lawrence High School. I went to a couple of events there,
Yeah.
but I can't I see the logo and I want to kick a puppy. So yeah, no, I will not wear anything to deal with the Chicago Cardinals. If we have a Chicago Cardinals team, I will
Used
actually
to.
we won't even talk
We
about them
used
on the
to.
show. We won't even talk about them on the show just because their name is the Cardinals.
All right. Next Fitz gibberish segment is my letter of resignation.
Would you, if they did bring in a second team, would you consider
I'd jump off the bandwagon so fast I'd sprain my ankle.
Really?
Yes, I'd probably. Why? What loyalty would I have to the Bears? Other than my parents love them.
What do you mean?
I mean, they're basically in my blood. I go nuts and yell
Yes.
at the TV all the time. Even my 4-year-old kid's like, Dad, why are you yelling, Dad? And then I throw tobacco at his face.
No wonder you're all right with Clevenger being on the field. All right, so that's where we're going to end it here. We were going to get into some Bulls and Blackhawks talk, but nobody wants to really talk about them.
Yeah.
Bulls going after Russell Westbrook. That do anything for you?
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
me
He's
neither.
basically a cancer now, and he's not as good anymore.
Great. So we'll have 2 more wins than what we planned on having.
Yeah,
which is not very
exactly.
many this year
Get a
anyway.
lesser pick in the draft if they don't make the play. I mean,
Yeah.
a lesser pick, maybe
Terrible
one or
idea.
2 lottery balls.
They're a bad organization too right now. They not really a bad organization, but they're a bad team. Really bad team. I think Billy Donovan's lost that team. They need to make
bad
major
I like
changes this
Billy
offseason.
Donovan.
I
But
do too. I think they need to revamp it though, and I think Billy Donovan will keep his job. Patrick Kane. I mean, Bulls and Hawks are just a shit show. Patrick Kane says he has 2 teams on his list, the Rangers and the Maple Leafs. The Rangers went out and got Tarasenko, so they're not going to go out and get Patrick Kane.
I saw that.
And the Maple Leafs, they're not planning on making any huge moves at the deadline. So Patrick Kane stays in Chicago?
Yeah, I think so at this point. I mean, if you're not going to get, what you need, which is draft picks, or young talent at all, then yeah, they're just going to, maybe trade him next year, I guess.
So Kane and Bedard on the same line next year. Kane and Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
And if you don't get Connor Bedard, you still got the what's that kid from
we're gonna have Johnny Supan.
Leo Carlson. That's the other kid.
Yep.
Second kid.
We're gonna have Johnny Supan. He's actually my brother-in-law, but we're gonna have him on probably in the next couple of weeks. He knows a lot about hockey, coaches hockey right now, played for Michigan State. So good kid. He knows a lot about this. He can break it all down, but no one's gonna listen. I will never forget. My dad used to yell. So we had he would be in the living room, and right there was our front bay window, and the bay window would be open. But Jeremiah used to hang out there, and I'm sure he heard. Yeah, Chris Bonio, the old kicker. Yeah, going nuts. My sister used to turn the corner to come down our block, and there's kids playing all on the block. This is 5 or 6 houses down, and she could hear my dad screaming, "You fucking idiot!" That was my childhood.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so Kane is staying. We don't want to see Russell Westbrook. The Sox love woman beaters.
Yeah.
The Cubs have a new third baseman, and the Bears might trade Justin Fields, but I doubt it. So it's about the gist of the show.
That's what we got.
About the gist of the show.
And we got some names wrong in the middle. And,
and the Bears are going to have all the draft picks.
Just give us all the picks.
So, all right, that's the show for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you guys click on the YouTube channel, click like, share, and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And it helps us out more than you know. Thank you guys for joining the show. Thank you, Jeremiah. David was laughing during your Fitz gibberish segment. Johnny Torres was in the chat today. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for being a part of the show.
Oh, yeah.
We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you guys reserve your tables too. Go into Bourbon Street, their website, 115 Bourbon Street. Reserve your tables for April 27th because we will be live for night 1 of the NFL draft, and we are going to have giveaways. We've got a whole bunch of stuff planned for you guys.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a great night. So make sure that you guys join for that, and we will see you next week.